Erin. Today I'm going to be doing a video all about my experience crossing over / being on two teams. So last season I crossed over. I was on Senior 2, which is my main team, and that team name was Blaze. You'll hear me refer to it a lot in the video. And I crossed over on a small Senior 1 team, and that team name was Ember. I'll also refer to that team as that. So Blaze was my main team. Ember was the team I crossed over on. I was with Blaze all season long, beginning to end. Ember, I started right before the first competition, so that's about October-ish, probably middle of October, and I went all the way through. I didn't compete at NCAA with them because of the rule, and then I competed at the competition after NCAA, and then I didn't compete with them at Summit. So I was with them most of the year, on and off. This year, however, I do not plan on crossing over. I will if I'm asked to, and if I feel I can do it, but I am going into high school, which means the work's going to be a lot harder, and also I'm on a lot higher level team than I was last year. This year I'm on Senior 4, so it's going to be a lot harder to balance, whereas last year was my second year on level 2, so it's fairly easy to me, and so being on a level 1 team was also fairly easy, so it just wasn't a big deal. I will be giving you guys some tips and some ups and downs, I guess, about crossing over, and then I also asked you guys on Instagram for some questions. So you guys asked me some questions about crossing over, and you guys asked really good questions, so props to you guys. So first I'm going to go through and I'm going to answer y'all's questions, and then I'm going to go through and I'm going to tell you guys the pros and the cons that I can think of crossing over. So yeah, let's get started. At my gym over the school year, we have a weekday practice and a weekend practice. The weekdays are 2 hours, and the weekend ones are 3 hours. So for me, I had Blaze on Tuesdays and Sundays, and for Ember I had it Thursday and Saturdays. But when we had extra practices, I would have 10 hours of cheer on the weekends alone. I would have 20 a week, so I would have Blaze Tuesday, Ember Thursday, Ember Saturday, then Blaze Saturday for an extra practice, and then Sunday I would have Blaze and Ember for an extra practice. So I had a lot of cheer, and it got really exhausting, but it was always worth it. For me, yes, I did, but that was only in one part of the routine, and that was jumps, because I had very similar jump motions for both routines. Yeah, I got them confused. The motions were really similar, so that would confuse me. We had a motion where we did this, and one team would do this hand first, the other team would do this hand first, and I always got that confused. But I never messed it up at competition, so it's fine. If your routine isn't very similar, like if the motions aren't very similar, you probably won't get it confused. You might like the first couple times, like if you're not paying attention, but if you're paying good enough attention and really focused, then you'll be fine. It would really depend on the competition. There were some competitions where you have more time than others, and also it depends how far apart your levels are. If you're crossing over on a 3 and 5 team, chances are if it's a bigger competition you won't be that close together. For me, I had Senior 1 and Senior 2, so it was a little closer together. Some competitions I would have an hour. That only happened once that I can remember, and then some competitions I literally would have 15 minutes to get to the warm-up room, and I would just have to, my coach would come get me and we would go. I definitely had a stronger bond with Blaze than I did with Ember, and it's not that I liked Blaze better or didn't like Ember. I loved both teams so much. I was with Blaze the whole year. Like I said, I tried out, made Blaze, was on Blaze the whole time, whereas Ember in October, when our season starts in end of May? I can't remember. So I was on Blaze again the whole year, but Ember I had started in October. So I wasn't on it as long. The team had already been through bonding camp and cheer camp and gotten their routine together and just had been together longer. So I did bond with girls, and I was close with the team, but I was definitely closer with Blaze because I'd been with them longer. But I did love both teams, and I did feel a part of both teams. I didn't feel excluded from Ember by any means. So just don't get your feelings hurt if the girls aren't as bonded to you as they are to each other. Just don't worry about it. You'll just be nice to them and be encouraging, and they'll take you in. It can just take a little bit. No, it honestly wasn't. Again, you treat it like your team. When you start crossing over, that is your team. You are on Blaze and Ember, or whatever team and whatever team. You are on those teams. You're not on Blaze, but you're on Ember sometimes. Or you fill in. You are on both teams. You have to give your full self to both teams. It wasn't hard at all for me. I did not have to do every single full out. My coach, well, I personally and my coach wanted me to do full outs like probably a week before the competitions, and I would start doing them that week to get used to it, but I didn't do them every single time because I had the skills so effortlessly, because it's skills I've had for a long time, so it was really like easy for me to do the stuff. As far as conditioning goes, me and the other girl that was crossing over, we did not have to condition with them every time. I conditioned with them if it was like my fault that they're conditioning. Like sometimes it would be because like a certain stunt fell, and if I was in that stunt or that stunt was sloppy or whatever, I would condition because it was my fault too. But usually, since I didn't go full out with them every time, if something was like there were flex toes and jumps but I didn't jump, my coach was like, you know, don't worry about it, it's whatever, y'all condition for your main teams like a lot. So we didn't have to every single time, but every gym's different again. But I would recommend talking to your coach and figuring that out. So we're just gonna start with pros, go to cons. There are more cons, but that doesn't mean that it's bad. Like, it just means like there's just more things to think of. Like, overall, crossing over is really fun, and if you get the chance to and it just works with your schedule, I'd recommend doing it. But here we go, which is a really great thing because, excuse me, Blaze last year, for the whole season except for the last 3 competitions, we had a rotating win. So we'd win, we get second, we'd win, we get second, we'd win, we get second, etc. So, but Ember won every single time except for NCA and Summit, but they had the highest raw score at NCA. Just saying. So if you don't really have that many friends on your main team, and like maybe like for whatever reason the girls just aren't very nice to you, that happens sometimes. It wasn't like that for me. I had plenty of friends on my main team, but you will make more friends, and you can kind of bond and kind of have like a fresh start almost. Like if something happened at the beginning of the year and just people aren't really fond of you on your team, you have your other team that'll take you in a little easier. But hopefully that's not like that. Hopefully you have great friends on both teams, because you'll have double the full outs, double the conditioning, not all the time, but most of the time, because they'll see that you can balance more than one team and you can still make it look great. So that's always good for your coaches to trust you. I personally love action shots, so you get double, and so if you get like a really bad one, like if you get all bad ones on one team, chances are you're going to get like better ones on your other team. And also, if you have like a more highlighted spot in the routine on your crossover team or your main team, you'll get more action shots. So that's good. Now we're going to move on to cons. I think there's like 2 more cons than there is pros, but that doesn't mean it's a bad thing. Again, like I said, it's kind of a con and a pro in itself. Like it depends how you take it. For me, I didn't take it as a bad thing, but for some people, like they can. I don't know. I'm just throwing that in there because some people can take that as one. You might have not very much time to get to one team, to get from awards for one team, or like your performance from one team to get to warm-ups. So that can be a little stressful. I was crossing over on a level 1 team, so they could usually compete early. So you might not always have to do this, but I did personally have to get up way earlier than I would have if I was just doing Blaze. But I mean, it's not a big deal. It was good to see like all of our teams. Most people do. I mean, if you know the whole team, chances are you're still going to feel out of place like when you're learning the routine, because everybody knows it. And so it's like when I jumped in, they were already doing full outs, so they were teaching me the routine, and I was having to do like full outs like in stunting with them. Like I was doing a stunt full out, they do full outs at the same time, which made me feel super out of place because I had no clue where I was going, no clue what I was doing in a routine. So that was really hard at first. I like hated it at first. I was like, why am I doing this? But once I got the routine down, I loved it, and I don't regret it at all. And sometimes your one team is just having like really bad practices, and you're like, oh my gosh, this competition's gonna be awful, like, oh, this is gonna be so embarrassing. And then, you know, they'll pull it off or they don't. But sometimes both teams are looking really bad, and you're like, oh my gosh, or one team's looking so good and one team's looking really bad. So it's just, that can be really stressful. Or, you know, you don't, or maybe you're messing up on something because you just don't understand like what the motions are, or how you do this stunt, or like whatever, and that can get really stressful too because you don't want to let the team down that all knows what they're doing. Oh, so yeah, that can be really stressful. So that's my experience crossing over. Well, not really my experience, I guess it's a little bit, but mainly like answering y'all's questions that you may have and telling you guys some pros and cons. So I hope you guys enjoyed this video, and I will see you next week. Bye!